Dude, I was not prepared for where the story wanted to take me. No one warned me about the exploration of grief in Michael Sarnowski's 2021 surprise hit, Pig. I forgot I was supposed to be analyzing the structure and just let the full experience wash over me, and it left me shook for days afterward. What I expected to be a quirky take on Taken with Nicolas Cage in the lead turned into a cinematic treasure of powerful performances. Every single frame is a work of art, and the universality of love and loss resonated to my very soul. The timestamps for each sequence can be found in the comment section if you'd like to watch along. Now, let's begin. We start, as always, with a focus on our protagonist, specifically their personality, their inner conflict, and their situation. Robin Feld lives mostly alone in the wilderness, apart from his ever-present grief, and the companionship of a pig, who together they hunt for wild truffles, for pleasure and profit. Next, we examine where, why, and how our protagonists exist in their world, with a focus on why they don't quite fit in. Amir serves as Rob's only contact to the outside world, and it's a rocky business relationship. The relics of Rob's old life brings heartache, not relief, and he and Pig are surrounded by apex predators. Then a brief event happens, one that's never happened before. It's destined to lead all the characters away from their status quo. Thieves attack Rob and steal his pig from their home, which leads us to examine the effect of that something new to the status quo, specifically what's different now and also what remains the same. Rob wakes up groggy and alone in the woods and turns to the relics of his past life, but they let him down again. We move along to the discovery that things are less than ideal, or else we explore how badly things are. Both scenarios are common. Rob is an immediate outsider to even quiet townsfolk, while it's revealed that he's been disconnected for at least 10 years, and the relationship with Amir seems irreparably fractured. Next, our characters dedicate their effort to a specified goal, and this is always smaller in scope than what the third act will demand. Rob and Amir recruit some silver fire to follow to the pig, but it only produces another lead, which points to the city. Then we run through a brief checklist of the main story elements that we can expect during this journey. The irreplaceable value of said pig, Robin wading into his old life, and the motley cast of characters along the way. Which brings us to the brief event that launches our characters into the wild jungle of the second act. It's also called the oh shit moment. Edgar refuses Rob's request for help and encourages Amir to question his friend's true identity. Oh shit. We follow our characters as they learn the new rules and expectations of their journey. These are always distinct to the narrative at play. Legendary names and reputations from the golden years of Portland's restaurant biz continue to hold clout, and Rob leads deeper into the seedier venues that even Amir knows nothing of, which forces Rob to cooperate and share information to keep the retrieval mission alive. Next, our characters showcase their ability to grow and progress, and this is typically an external or physical beat rather than internal or emotional. They descend into Edgar's place, which I don't think is Tyler Durden approved, and Rob proves that his old school reputation is very much alive by the silent awe he commands. Then a challenger takes the bet. Then our characters face legitimate and understandable reasons to deviate from their stated convictions, agendas, or desires. Rob pushes through the physical abuse and pain to survive the clock, and in so doing, earns Edgar's help and the next lead. We endure the anxiety as our characters face an escalation of problems and complications. Rob searches for a way to move forward with his new lead. Then his antisocial nature is tested when Amir reveals that Rob's food was a rare happy memory of home life, who takes his turn to be open by oversharing his existential terror of a coming natural disaster, and walks it back with some cooking advice. Next, our characters evolve internally or emotionally, and they do this by using elements of the plot or story which they've gathered and learned so far. Amir boldly uses Rob's name to leverage his way into Finway's for lunch, despite earlier hesitation to be associated, while Rob plucks up the courage to find his old home from his past life. Then our journey-weary characters come to terms with their ongoing struggles. Moments and elements of the first act are used to gauge their progress. The loss of the persimmon tree from the backyard echoes the gradual erasure of Rob's place in the world. Yet the adorable kid growing up in that backyard shows that life can move on happily with all new beginnings, which results in a brief event that strikes at our protagonist's core conflict. With his old life going and gone, all he has is Pig somewhere ahead of him, and he marches to Finway's to keep the retrieval mission on course. We receive needed answers alongside our characters, which relate to both their external journeys and their internal conflicts. Amir pulls off his task to get seated at Finway's for lunch, and Rob's reputation earns the unwavering attention of the chef. Next, our characters complete their smaller scope objective, yet discover that their victory is shallow or altogether meaningless, without also completing a larger scope objective. Amir picks up the chorus line to demand information on Pig, but Finway's reluctance to approach the topic clearly betrays his guilt. Then our characters face an existential conflict that wounds their sense of self, their worldly identity, or their physical journey. Rob interrogates Finway, angry to see a man move on so completely after the loss of a dream. Finway crumbles beneath the weight of wistful sorrow and decades-old guilt, and reveals Amir's father as the mastermind behind the abduction. Then Rob gets the address to the abduction's mastermind and charges into the standoff. We celebrate with our protagonist in light of an undeniable win, which is always related to the rebirth in some way. Rob arrives at the place where all the answers promise to be, while Amir shows us, the audience, the critical piece needed for Rob's ultimate success. Next, our characters suffer a grand loss. This is always connected to their newfound inability to quit their journey. Within arm's reach of the man who ordered the abduction, Rob pleads for Pig, but Darius heartlessly refuses and offers a payday instead. Then we experience a thematic freefall, as the main story elements are ramped up and thrown into upheaval. Rob reveals the truth of his own truffle hunting skills, and how Pig is truly just his much beloved companion, and the unlikely partnership reunites for a Hail Mary play. Then Rob finally returns to where his past life began and ended, at his old restaurant, while Amir performs a dusty scavenger hunt, which forces us into a brief event that robs our protagonist of seemingly any hope of success. Amir discovers the catalyst for Rob's physical and emotional seclusion, the death of his wife Lori. We watch as our characters realize that they cannot return to their first act selves, and they turn to face the larger scope objective. Rob learns that nothing stayed the same in his absence, that new things sprang up where he once existed, and he finds existential acceptance here in his once sacred hall. Next, our characters use the major swings of the story and their personal journeys to move towards the climax. Rob cooks a fancy meal in a fancy kitchen, back in his legendary element, and he passes on his knowledge to the next generation, preserving that legacy forever. Then the final confrontation of our protagonist and characters against the antagonistic force plays out. Amir brings his father to the dinner table, where Rob serves a meal that's ripped straight from Darius's happiest memories, which culminates in a brief moment where our protagonist finally, and oftentimes metaphorically, overcomes their place in the Act 1 status quo. Darius is forced to face a happier time with his wife, and his emotionless facade shatters. Grief becomes him. We experience the direct aftermath of the climax. This can give our characters a moment to reflect on the situation, or else wind down the action with a coda. Walls and defenses torn down, Darius reveals the mercy killing of a mishandled and injured pig, and Rob is struck down by yet another life-shattering loss, while Amir contemplates his role in the events. Next, we touch base with additional characters, typically to contrast them against the new status quo. Rob regrets taking the journey that only led to the knowledge of Pig's fate, yet Amir softly counsels that remaining ignorant of her death would not change that he needed to grieve, then finds himself hesitate before returning to so-called civilized society. Then we conclude with a tight focus on our protagonist, specifically to contrast them against how we met them at the opening. Rob returns to his cabin, more alone than ever, and finally he's able to confront the loss of Lori to process his inevitable grief and eventual acceptance. And there you have it. Michael Sarnowski's 2021 release, Pig, adheres perfectly to the 29-point story structure every step of the way. It's evidence that even the most subtle and character-driven story follows the same familiar structure. Now, let's move on from a man lost in the world to a man lost in the galaxy. The origin story of the most swag space pirate is dead ahead. Join me next time for Ron Howard's 2018 sci-fi romp, Solo: A Star Wars Story. As always, thank you so much for your time. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy this content, and consider commenting on and sharing this video to help the channel find its audience. Take care of yourselves out there, and I'll talk to you next time.